Let's be real. Marketing for your company can feel like a full-time job on top of your actual full-time job. You think about hiring an agency, that's too expensive. Building an in-house team, that's too much of a hassle. What about doing it yourself? Forget about that. That's where ProMode changes the game. It's an AI-powered marketing platform built for B2B businesses that handles all of your marketing. That means the blogs, social media, emails, SEO, all of that at 10 times the speed that an agency can do it. And here's the kicker. It costs just $2,500 a month, and it has zero headaches and no hidden fees. And if you're skeptical about that, just try it risk-free with a 30-day money-back guaranteed. If you're tired of marketing getting in the way of running your business, head over to our friends at ProMode and finally get marketing handled without the stress. And don't forget to use code KCBC when you sign up to waive your $5,000 onboarding fee. All right, everybody, welcome to Kansas City Business Cast. This is your host, Michael Reisinger. We are starting off season 5 today, kicking this off. This will go live in March, and we'll be running this season all through March and April. So by now, you've heard our intro and a first sponsor message, okay? I want you to think about something when you're listening to this show and you hear those ads come up, okay? These aren't like pharmaceutical ads or like, local propositions that you should vote for ads like you usually see on the unpaid YouTube channel. These ads are from people in our community in Kansas City that are throwing in on this show. So I want you to think about that when you're listening to this and kind of hearing from our sponsors. These are people that are building stuff in our community, building businesses. Maybe they operate locally, maybe they operate nationally or globally. But whenever you hear me talking about what our sponsors are doing, that is a legit person. So again, thank you to our sponsors for helping us pay the bills and sort of add to this podcast, because our ultimate goal is to get back in person, but with cameras this time. Okay. So having said all that, I have a very special guest today. I had to talk to myself before I got on with my boy Esai here to say, don't geek out too much on this interview. Okay. Don't geek out. Don't go nuts. Let him talk. Let him tell his story because he is doing amazing things in our city. Esai Moreno from No Solutions Productions. Welcome to the show, brother.
Thank you, man. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I appreciate you. Just to kind of give everybody a quick, rundown of how I found out about you and No Solutions Productions. Okay, so of course we're gonna have all your links in the show notes. Everybody tap in with what Esau's doing. Okay, but to give you the long story short, I had Cam F Awesome on my show, and around about when we launched that episode, around this time last year, I-70 had put up an old clip of John Little talking to Cam on the podcast, right? In the Shop Cigar Lounge, which I assume that's where you're at today, right?
Yeah,
Your setting?
This is home base for me.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And I remember seeing it, and I was like, I was in this phase where I was literally discovering a Kansas City podcast every week. And I saw John and Cam chopping it up, and I was like, what's this? And I saw No Solutions Productions. What's that? And I went to the page and I saw, I think you had Strawberry Hill Podcast at the time, I-70. Those were the only two this time last year.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
But the fact that it was a podcast network, I was like, bro, like I think Rich Roll, who is a very popular ultra runner athlete, he had just started some sort of network. And that was when Daily Wire might have been doing it before, but Daily Wire started launching all the podcast personalities. And so it's kind of like this new media thing. And so I was just really interested, and I started following, and you followed right back. And that stuff, when you're getting your start, that means so much when you have people that notice that. Oh, here's another Kansas City podcast. I should follow them too. And ever since then, man, you've been supportive of this show. I just came on I-70 podcast about 2 months ago, had my first conversation with you on the air. We were talking about fatherhood.
Yep.
and I was like, as I've gotten to know you in the short amount of time, I'm just like, I would love to have this guy on to tell his story. So, man, that's kind of the genesis or the birth moment of our friendship. So,
and that was a real genuine moment too. It wasn't like, it wasn't like we were just like talking to each other like regular. It was like a genuine moment about fatherhood, and that was a beautiful thing. Yeah.
Absolutely, brother. Before I get into the thick of it, I want to give you a gift. Okay, so
Awesome.
as part of our season 5 partnership with our local sponsors, we have Black Drip Coffee. Sharon and Dan, they have been so kind as to sponsor this season. Okay, and so part of you coming on the show today, you are going to get a free bag of their
Awesome.
Renegade Ground Blend. Okay, so
Nice,
I'll
nice.
make sure after this episode I get you all the information and we'll get that out to you. Again, thank you, Dan and Sharon and Black Drip, for everything you're doing, everything they do with Porterhouse KC as well, raising up new entrepreneurs in the city. I've had a few of them on my show. It's just incredible. So yeah, dude, you're gonna get some coffee today.
Awesome.
So
I appreciate it. I appreciate it. You gonna pass it through the screen, or how are we gonna? No,
dude, I wish
no.
I could, man. Yeah, I'm gonna
Right, right.
upload it real quick. You just
Yeah, yeah.
download it, okay?
I got you. I got you.
Yeah, but we'll get it to you quickly, man.
No, it's all good. I appreciate it. Tell them
So
I said thank you too.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely will do. So man, where do we begin? I've been thinking about this and I'm like, okay, so you got no solutions. Maybe you
Hmm.
could just kind of tell our listeners, set the stage of what you do, why you do it, and how
Yeah.
what you're doing, no one else, literally no one else is
No
doing.
one. Yeah. So with my approach to No Solutions Productions, it was very unorthodox. So what we do exactly is we create shows, whether we come up with them or they're pitched to us, and we basically partner with the host. So it's a 50-50 split on everything. And I'm a real big believer that the talent should always be paid accordingly. You know what I mean? So with our model, it's set up to where we cover all the production side, all the social media marketing side, and the host, their only responsibility is to find guests and come ready with a good structure for each episode. And so it's a perfect like mutually beneficial thing that allows us to grow these platforms. So it's as simple as that, really.
That's amazing. And now I see I didn't know that, right? And this
Yeah,
is why I'm just nerding out about this conversation
right,
because you're telling people a little bit about, how you do what you do. And that's what I love about you too, is you don't keep secrets, right? Like you're
right.
like,
No, no.
hey, anybody can do this kind of thing. But at the
Hmm.
same time, there is no other Esau Moreno. So nobody can do what
Yeah,
you do.
yeah. And big shout out to my wife because, with us building these brands from the ground up, there's not a lot of money coming in on each of these brands. So, my wife's been the backbone of my family right now. And, without her, there is no NSPN. So, yeah.
What's your wife's name?
Trinity.
Trinity. Shout
Yep.
out to Trinity.
Shout out.
Oh my gosh, dude. So yeah, so she's running an NSPN with you. How long have you guys been together?
We're coming on 8 years and 3 days. So,
Congratulations,
yep.
man. And so where did you decide we want to add a podcast network to what we
Well,
do along with raising kids and having a strong marriage and all that stuff?
so I got the itch for podcasting back during the Rona times, back in 2020, and we just got probably like so it was me, my sister Maria, and my cousin Mark, which you've met Mark.
Yeah, dude.
Um, we decided to start a podcast, but I told them I was like, hey, I don't want to just start a podcast, do it in front of a freaking iPhone and stuff, and nothing wrong with that because you got to start somewhere. But me, I'm a go big or go home type guy. So we pulled together probably $3,300 out of our own pockets each. Well, like not each, but it was like 1,100 each, something like that.
Pool in, yeah.
Yeah, and we bought 3 cameras, we bought the mics, we bought the audio board, the switcher, the lights. Basically, everything we have now is getting close to 5 years old. But it started out that way, and then we got a lot of compliments on production and whatnot. So I ended up creating a business plan to open up a full on studio that other people could take advantage of and come use and use our services as well. And it it's such a tough market to be in because we were essentially a marketing company and we were charging people to do these podcasts, and it wasn't the money wasn't flowing in like I thought it would. And so I quickly found out that that model is just not going to work. So we switched it from us being a marketing company to now we were being a network, because while we were in that studio, man, there was so many times where we would just be effing off, not doing anything. And I was like, yeah, this is not working for me. We got to do something. So we started just cranking out shows. And the moment we started the network in 22, we immediately started about 8 shows within the first 3 months. Yeah.
That's
Eh,
incredible.
Yeah. So that's when it started.
So, oh man, I love it. Started as a marketing company, found out that model didn't work. It's got to be it's got to be insane, right? Waiting for people to come in who want to rent the studio space,
Right.
who want to pay for editing services. I mean, I know as I've been growing this podcast, I've gotten some offers for some of that stuff, and
Yeah.
the thing that goes through every like self-made podcaster, and I want to say too, no one's self-made, everybody gets help,
Right.
right? But like
For sure.
when you're a do-it-yourself kind of guy, like I know
Hmm.
you are, bro, I know
Yeah.
you do the editing,
Hmm.
I know you're involved, you're still doing, you're working
Yeah.
on and in. The thought goes, can I do that myself? And then
Right.
people start doing that, and then that's just a kind of a really weird game. But so
Yeah.
you said, okay, we're going to start creating shows. So you did 8 shows, and was that with this like newer type model where you had the personality and they?
Yep. Yeah. So out of those 8 shows, we had two already that we were producing for other people. And at that time, they were paying us to produce it. And then we quickly created night cappers, and it might have been heavy breathing at the same time with Jacob.
I met Jacob.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Shout out Jacob Moran.
big time.
So when we started those, we realized that the model of having money involved, which it sounds nuts, like from a business owners listening to this, they're like, okay, so you took money out. Yes, literally. So now no money is involved to fund this thing. We have all the equipment. Yeah, all it takes is my willpower to make things shake. So once we took the money out of it, it became genuine relationships that we were building with our hosts. Now, out of those 8 podcasts, not all hosts were as, we'll say, they weren't as involved as they should have been. So at that time, we started, really trying to get serious with it. So the ones who weren't being serious about it, we kind of just, told them we need to part ways, and you guys go do your thing. We're going to continue to do ours. But that whole first 8 shows was a giant learning experience. And now, as you know, we're luckily at 5 shows, and I could, with happiness, dude, say that all of them are, putting in the work, going that extra mile, and we're trying to do our best to stay on track with 5 shows a week.
Yeah, man. And
Yeah.
that's the thing too, is you've got I noticed all weekdays except Thursdays, you're
Yep.
launching episodes. And
Yeah.
so Monday is I-70, my boy John. I love that guy. When you talk about hard work, they're putting in the work. I mean,
Hmm.
when I went on the show, that guy knew basically everything except my social security number.
Man, yeah.
I
No, I
mean,
tell I tell John, and I like to blow up his head, gas him up a little bit. I'm like, listen, you're like the poster child for what a good podcaster should be. And so, like, all the people, I'm sure they get annoyed. The people that come on, I'm like, hey, like, follow suit, because this is how it's done. And he's been able to grow a great following with his personal pages and with I-70. And it's always great to have someone like John that's gonna put in that work to make sure this is successful.
absolutely. His name is
Yeah.
John, and he has a gift. He's got
Yeah.
many gifts,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And then you got Strawberry Hill, and
Yep.
that's Mike's podcast,
Yes,
right?
sir.
And then your Homegirl's Couch. That's been exciting to kind of see
Yep.
develop. And then There's Off Air Hustle. That's with
Yep.
Deanna Hustle, right?
Yep.
Loving her content. I love the sit downs that you do with her too, where
Right.
she's just talking about the news
Right. Right. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
her opinions. I
Yeah.
just love it, man.
The
And then
solo episodes, man.
yeah, and
Yeah.
that's the thing I love too, like about like with John is like if you guys we were talking about it, and like somebody doesn't show up or can't make it or has to cancel,
Hmm.
he does work anyway.
Yeah. And let me give them their
Yeah,
flowers.
please.
Deanna and John are the only ones that could probably do that. Just run a solo episode, because that's difficult as shit. Imagine like you sit here and talk to people every week. Imagine sitting here and having to talk to just the laptop or the camera, like
Absolutely.
that'd be so tough. I couldn't do it. So
Yeah, it is tough. I think the biggest enemy, because I'm working on getting back to my 5 minutes to learn thing,
mhm.
is thinking too much about it. That
Yep.
is where we start to get tripped up. If we
Hmm.
just let ourselves riff, it goes a lot better.
Yeah.
But yeah, the content that they're putting out is amazing. And then can't forget High Times with the Fam.
Yeah.
Um, just and I'm not caught up with that one just yet, but is it no longer? I mean, there was 8 people, right?
Yeah.
Do you have it
So
down to 4 now, or
we cut it down to 4 recently.
okay?
And we actually kind of scrapped the first season. So we did a whole 12 episodes with the 8, and we ended up scrapping it because as you know, with NSPN, I'm very, very anal about the look and feel of the shows. And with 8 people, it was so hard to make look pretty, bro. It like,
Camera switching has
yeah,
got to be crazy.
and it was just a lot to deal with. The 8 people is a lot to manage, and it was something that I was doing as a test run, kind of, so that's another thing that, like, for other people that might want to go down the same route as me, you have to trial and error everything. Like, if you guys have ideas, do them. Don't just think about them. Do them. Figure out what's gonna work, what's not gonna work, and that's what happened with High Times. So now we're down to 4, but we restarted from season 1, episode 1, and
Okay.
I kind of put the last 12 episodes on a shelf. They're not visible to anybody, but I have them for keepsake, because that it was amazing, great times that we were able to have with our family.
Mention Kansas City business owners making 100,000 a year or more. Let's talk about your finances. They could be a mess, and that could cost you big, right? Are you wasting hours in QuickBooks? Are you misclassifying transactions? Are you making tax mistakes? Obviously, that's all money down the drain, or worse, an IRS fine. Silverstone Bookkeeping has helped 50 plus businesses clean up their books fast. Now, for a limited time, they're offering a QuickBooks diagnostic review and tax saving session for just $150. That's usually a $500 value. Within 48 hours, they'll flag 8 to 25 key fixes and uncover potential tax savings for your business. Give them a call at 913-732-4151 or visit silverstonebookkeeping.com now. Absolutely, man. Yeah, that experiential learning component is so important because
Yeah.
creatives, man, we'll paralyze ourselves, with all the ideas,
Yep.
especially if you've got ideas, but then there's the execution. The only way to get comfortable with execution is by executing, right?
Yep.
It's
Right.
by doing it. So let's
Yep.
talk about that, right? Like what's going well right now for NSPN? What are you most excited about when we're talking about 2025 and what could be coming up in the future?
Man, the it's hard to say, man. The future for us is going to be pretty fucking amazing. Sorry if is it cussing allowed on here?
Absolutely, dude.
Okay, okay, sorry. Sorry.
Absolutely.
I tried to censor myself earlier. That's why it just
That's okay.
slipped. No, I'm very passionate about this stuff that we're doing, and uh without giving away too much, like, this podcasting stuff is a small percentage of our future plans. And I plan on taking over the film and TV industry here in Kansas City and organizing it, because through podcasting, as you know, it's a networking cheat code, and I've said it before. And you meet so many great people, and I've been able to rub shoulders with some people that are already in the film industry out here, and it's constantly them telling me that the people in that industry are all freelance out here. All of them don't know if they're going to have work next week. And some of them even get effed over by bigger productions, like that are hiring them out. And there's a lot of people that are just week to week, month to month even, and I would like to provide an organization that allows them to have work on a constant basis, have a paycheck on a constant basis, and be able to be creative. So
Absolutely.
to just to keep it short, we're gonna expand the production into film and TV, and we're also working on creating a streaming service to coincide with that. So it's gonna be some big stuff happening.
Is incredible, man.
Yeah,
Oh my gosh, dude. And of course too, right? Like always thinking about the bigger picture and
yeah,
getting your reps in
hmm
with what you've done with NSPN with the
yeah,
podcast is incredible, man. I love too how for your artists, right, or podcasters, whatever we want to call
hmm
the personalities, they're getting some really good experience too,
yeah,
practicing their reps and getting their
hmm
reps in, you
for
know.
sure.
Um, what are some of the things that I guess the challenges I guess that you've had to go through and endure as you've been building this, man, or maybe blind spots, things that hit you that you've had to reflect on and grow from.
Yeah. So, I guess the biggest problem that we've had would have been the studio. So, when I switched that business model from marketing to this basically free podcast empire, no money was coming in, and it was a very sad way it went out, because I was a month behind on my rent for the studio, and I had a vacation planned out like a year in advance. That was with my entire family. We're going to Mexico for a wedding out there, and so when I was out there, I got a call from my landlord, and he was just like, "Hey, you got to have everything out by tomorrow." Uh, and I was just like, "I'm in Mexico, dude." He is like, "Well, that's not my problem. Figure it out." And I was like, "All right." So luckily, I had Mark back here and his dad, Big Mod with the Big Modcast,
Yes, sir.
and they went and cleared out the whole entire thing for me. And but when I got back, that's when I had to kind of face reality. I didn't have the studio anymore, and that was the biggest problem, was finding places to host these shows. So that's when I started, getting out there and talking to different business owners, asking them if it's something they might be interested in, allowing these random little podcasts to come in and basically just we kind of take over every place we go, for that time. But we're fortunate enough to finally land in a spot like this here at the shop. And Mike Simmons, man, he's been a pillar for NSPN, holding us down and allowing us to shoot out of here. And we partner with other companies as well, but there's times where we're not able to record in those locations, and Mike is right here saying like, "Hey, we got space everywhere in here. Just bring them on over." And this is our good filling spot for the other shows too. So I would say, after losing the studio, the locations for the podcast were probably the biggest. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I know too, you talked about it on To Bring About, but how you're scoping out some places to have like a home base for
Right.
production and
Yeah.
these bigger plans that you have, right?
Right.
To be able to
Yeah.
film and have set locations and things
Right.
like that. And man, dude, I mean, how amazing is that too? And that's why part of why I care so much about all of the businesses and business owners here in Kansas City. And the people who have the
See, I feel like it's naturally smoky in here. The cigar lounge.
Absolutely.
Yeah, my bad.
Yeah, that's some good effect right there, man. But one of the reasons why I started this whole thing was, the Sages are local.
Yeah,
Like look at you. You're local, right? Mike's local. Mike literally has a brick and mortar where he's like, you guys can have that front corner every Saturday at 11 o'clock. Yes,
yeah,
absolutely. Because people understand what it's like to start out with something and need a spot to do things, a stable spot, right?
Yeah.
And then also the benefit for the business is, man, they got me in there. And then I went in the next weekend, and guess what? Next time we have a guys' night, we're going to the shop because
Right.
that place is absolutely lit, dude. Like,
Yeah.
I love the vibe there, and the podcast was the vehicle. Like, I-70 was the vehicle to get there. And I noticed that too. Like, all your intros, they're all like locally shot. You don't use any stock images,
Right.
things like that.
Yeah.
So this is like, I don't know, man. It's like local grassroots 101, and then you have the 10,000-foot view to say, hey, we want to just kind of make this region. We want to change the landscape of this region.
Yeah.
Um, one of the things that people have been asking me as my podcast has been growing slowly and surely is they're like, where do you have the time, Michael? Right? Because like
Man.
I got my full-time job, I got VAS,
Right.
shout to all my clients, Kansas City Business Cast. And they're like, where do you find the time? And I'm like, I kind of joke and I say, well, I created out of thin air.
Hmm.
Sometimes I have a really regressive response that I say, well, I don't sit on my ass much. I don't twiddle my thumbs much. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
yeah.
Like, I'm not
Depending on your mood that day,
I know, right. And who I'm talking to, right? Because
Right,
like,
right, right.
you know how it is, man. You're trying to be cool, but you're also trying to show like this is people like people can do this if they'd stop Netflix and
Right.
binge watching things like that. Like we've all been given the same time. Okay, this is a really long
Hmm.
way for me to get to my question, but I'm kind of setting it up, right? Like I'm sure, like I know when I found out, like when John made that joke after we were recording, he's like, "Man, I tried to keep telling Esau, get me in there, let me edit, but
Hmm.
Esau's got to edit it all or whatever." And I was like,
Hmm.
"Seriously?" And like I had a mushroom cloud moment with you, like
Yeah.
how? So I ask you,
Yeah.
bro, like you got kids, you got your
Mhm.
marriage, like what's your strategy, like processes? How do you do it, bro?
So to be honest with you, it's I now before I say what I'm about to say, I I will say that I believe that confidence and holding yourself to a high standard is very important when doing stuff in the creative space. Because if you're not confident with your own stuff, no one's gonna be attracted to it the same way, you know?
Absolutely.
Um, but I bust my ass. Like, so from the moment I wake up in the morning, I'm usually up editing or doing some sort of thing to progress the podcast side. And then I'll come up to the shop, get some networking in, try to, make some good relationships with people. And then I'll continue to work on either the podcast or the long term vision as well. Um, and so every day except for Sunday is when I'm working. And even Sunday night, I still work. So my schedule for the day goes usually about 9 to 3. I'm working, and then from 3 to like 4 or 5, I'll kind of unwind, might have a cigar here or whatever, and then I go home, get to spend time with my family, and I try my best to not work while I'm there. But at I got 5 podcasts, man. I at some points I'm like, I'm gonna go to the dining room table and go get some work done. But I try to not touch the computer at all until uh about 10:30, and then I'll work from like 10:30 p.m. to like 2 a.m. and do it all over again every day. Yeah,
Man.
so I really need help. I really need help.
So, hey, let's talk about that. You had mentioned
Yeah.
that in a previous conversation, like finding the help, and bro, like I'm just gonna cut to the chase and make an assumption here. Is it hard for you to trust other people with your podcasts?
No. So that would be an assumption, a smart assumption to make, but it's not that I don't trust. It's that so when money is not involved, so
Mm,
like I can't provide that right now at this point. With our future plans, I could provide all the money in the world for these people. But right now that money's not involved, nobody's gonna put in the work the same with the same passion that I do because it's not theirs. all they stand to gain from it really is experience and a spot on the team for the future stuff we have planned. And that's not enough for people, which I understand. Everybody has families, they got kids, they got bills. So I completely understand it, and I don't hold it against anybody. But until I find as of right now, until I find somebody that can put in the passion to it as much as I can without that paycheck, then it's going to be difficult for me to allow anybody to come in and do it. Because if it's half-assed, like off and on, like sometimes they could edit, sometimes they can't, that fucks up my whole system, because my system is ran to where I can have each podcast edited and clips done and all that in like 5 hours, and set it up for the whole week to be posting and all that. So if I were to allow someone in and they kind of slack off, that puts it back on me, and then that's even more stressful because expectations.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, man, that time that you just listed, that I know from personal experience of tweaking and editing, because I do everything here right now,
Yeah.
as of now, and 5 hours for an episode. That's really good, bro,
Yeah.
because you
Yeah.
make clips and I've seen what you do. It's very similar type of format. You like
Mhm.
3 reels per episode usually.
Yep.
You're posting you do a post, you do the stories, you tag people. We all
Mhm.
know the limitations of these social platforms too.
Yeah.
Sometimes you got to wait until it posts and then you go back and you add certain things
Right. Right.
because the scheduling software, whether you're using Adobe or Canva or whatever, there's
Yeah.
limitations there. But the biggest thing in what you're saying is having templates, processes, a format
Yeah.
that is reliable and that works, so you don't have to think too much about what you're
Right.
doing. And I imagine your brain power, you're going into the editing, and then there's a lot of thought that's involved with grabbing those reels too, right?
Yeah.
You're like, man, that whole episode was chock full of bangers. How do
Right.
I grab 3?
Yeah. And you
Or
got
it
to
had
always
none and I need to pull something out.
that part. Yeah. No, that's definitely happened. That's
Very
definitely
few and far
happened.
between Kansas City
Yeah.
Business Cast. I'm not going to piss on
No.
anything that
No.
we've done, but sometimes it is hard.
Yeah. 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 And for me, this is where I'm kind of like really like this is where I kind of like have control problems. It's if there isn't clips, I just won't post any. So like I don't want to be the person to just be throwing stuff out there just to fill it in. It to me, if it's not clip worthy, I don't want to post it. So
Love
that's
that,
been a
actually.
problem in the past. And yeah, I'm trying to deal with that, because to be honest with you, some content is better than no content. So that's just the world we live in. But like I said, I need it a certain way. So yeah.
Well, two things. Number one, I respect that, and
Mm,
I'm going to take that into this next season.
yeah.
Um, I think most of our guests, they drop something, in at least every episode. But if I'm honest, there's been a couple where you know, I didn't take that quality step that you just talked
Mm,
about, right? Like
yeah.
in making sure. The other thing is I feel so proud of myself all of a sudden that I had 2 reels that dropped on I-70.
Man.
I'm like, damn, Esau's
Yeah.
bar
Yeah.
is up here. And I actually
Yeah.
was able to do that a couple times. So like you
Mm,
posted it. I appreciate that.
right. Right. Yeah. And
I
see
knew
that.
John was going to have a bunch.
No. Yeah. And see, that's another problem. Like with John's podcast, he is so charismatic that the best clips might be from just him, even though he has a guest. And like that's actually like right now this week with his guest, it was a funny conversation. It was great, but all the good moments, like the ones that I feel were clip worthy, are just John, and I feel kind of bad about it. But
Right.
it's like it is what it is. This person that's been on, they've been a guest like 3 times, so they're fine with it, I'm sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah.
Man, yeah, it's funny. I One of the things, because since I went virtual now, and
Mm-hmm.
even when I was audio only, well, I guess when I was audio only, it was just one sound wave, right? Or no, two
Right. Right.
tracks, right? But in the editing software, it kind of looked weird. But in Riverside, I like my track is a certain color and the guest track is another color. And
Nice.
I noticed like some episodes, the talking between, because I'm trying to shine a light on the guest,
Right,
right?
right.
And I'm like, man, I talked a little bit too much in that one, right? I'm really
Mm.
weird about that. Like, I'm like,
Yeah, yeah.
did I give my guests the floor enough? And then there's ones where the guests just talk so much, and I was just not a good host. I didn't
Yeah, yeah.
I didn't help keep them on track. I kind of let
Right,
them
right.
run on. Remember how when random thing? Remember when Shannon Sharp had Cat Williams on his show?
Right.
And everybody bitched that
Yeah, yeah.
like you let Cat talk too much, man. You
Right,
let him
right.
talk too much.
Yeah, it
It wasn't
happens.
it wasn't quite like that, but I love Shannon's response. He said, "Do you think I was going to stop that flow of information?" He
Right.
basically said in so many words like, would you have stopped him? That dude was on a roll. There was nothing I could have done.
Yeah,
I could not have stopped that train. And so
yeah.
sometimes you got to guess if they're riffing and they're processing and it's good, and
Right.
it's even if it's got rough spots, like
Mm.
let them get out. And if they're not getting out as the host,
Yeah.
it's your responsibility to pull the winch out of the front of the Jeep and help get them out of that ditch, right?
Right, right.
I don't know if that whole yeah, I get that. Sorry. Now you
No,
got
no,
me
no.
riffing a little bit.
No, but see, like that awareness that you have as a podcaster, man, that is huge because I don't want to sound like I'm a smart genius or anything, but there's some, I think it's like Murphy's Law or something where it's like once you are aware of the problem, writing it down, you solve half the problem already. Like you're halfway there. I don't know.
Oh,
Something
Murphy's
like
Law.
that.
I think Murphy's Law is whatever can go wrong will go wrong.
Okay, no, no, no. I'm
But
not see that's why I prefaced. I'm not no genius. Yeah,
I
no,
love it.
no.
Hey, bro.
There was something that along the lines though, like you know, if you can address the problem, you're halfway there. You know.
Yeah, I that is from a business book. I've got
Yeah.
it. I got a list of business books. Do you read business books or do you read?
I'm an audiobook guy.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Somebody wrote about that, but the best analogy that I can think of actually in the last couple of years that I've used is allegedly the internet says Abraham Lincoln said it.
Mm,
For all I know, Teddy Roosevelt did too, and I don't know,
yeah.
but Abraham Lincoln said, "If you give me 5 hours to chop down a tree, I'm going to spend 4 hours sharpening the axe." And like don't go trying to solve a problem with a dull tool, right? I think
Right,
that's the
right.
whole thing. And like, yeah, if you do a good job at defining the problem,
Mm-hmm.
selfish plug, this is what I help business owners do, we really
Yeah,
talk
yeah.
about what the real problem is.
Mm-hmm.
Then you're halfway, if not 3/4 of the way there of
Right.
solving it, right? One thing that happens too with problem solving a lot is people just kind of address a problem and they think that's the problem they got to solve.
Mm-hmm.
They need to do a 5 whys exercise. Say, why is that happening? Well, why is that happening? Well, why is that happening? They
Right.
don't get to the actual root cause to solve it. But all that to say, man, like with the challenges and the processes and the procedures that you use, I love how you have systems and you have a format that you use. That time that you're spending with your family, what's important to you as a dad right now, man? I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you for some fatherhood reflection and advice, dude.
Man, I mean, advice, you probably have more to give me than I do, but
I'm
uh,
always
as
learning, brother.
as far as that time that I do get throughout the week, man, I mean, as you know, this shit is stressful, like super stressful, and I always saw a post about it, like when you get home and you get to hug your wife and kid, that's that battery recharge, and that's really what it is. And like my daughter, she's 4, she'll be 5 this year, and she's getting to that age where she's just like so much energy, so aware of everything,
Hmm.
and she's getting to be like a little genius, and I freaking love it. But like she's the first one to greet me when I walk through that door when I get home, and that is really a battery recharge, man. It's the one of the best feelings ever. And like it's funny because I tell my wife, I when it comes to like my household, it's always, God, wife, kids, the rest of my family. I'm at the
Sure.
bottom, very bottom.
Yeah, brother.
Yeah, but like I try to be intentionally going to my wife before my daughter when I get home. But when she runs to me, I'm like I can't do anything about it. Yeah. So yeah, that's been the best moments, just like those little things, you know. And then Sundays, I still get to my wife and kid and the rest of my family. I try to be very intentional with my Sundays to not work, except for when I get home at the end of the night. I'll work till like 2 o'clock in the morning. Yeah. But yeah, that is one other thing is I'm starting to wonder if working nights is not as good as waking up super early and getting to work. Because I wake up like 9 o'clock, and I'm starting to think like maybe I should be going to bed with my wife and kid, you know? Like
Yeah.
maybe I should be more intentional with that rather than working my ass off all night while they're sleeping and then me waking up by the time my wife's gone for work and stuff, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it's little things like that.
That's powerful, brother. I will do you mind if I just share a little bit of what I've
No, go
learned from
ahead.
doing that?
For sure.
So, it's awesome that you said that, and I definitely encourage you, brother to brother, to
Mhm.
kind of pursue that and
Yeah.
explore that, bro. And maybe you give it a shot. But what I'll tell you is, I was working late nights. This is actually I've always known that getting up super early, I call it getting the drop on the day. Like I
Yeah.
don't let the day get dry. I've always known that even though I don't like it, that's when I do my best work, right? And so I had
Yeah.
this very similar revelation where I was working late and because the mindset is okay, they're all asleep. Now I can actually work. I
Right.
got some me
Yeah.
time, right? It
Exactly.
part of it's weird because it's like part of it's selfish, but part of it is also like this is when the work can get done because then I can devote all of my brain power and all of my creativity to it because they're asleep, literally, right?
Yeah.
um I flipped it because I was like, if I get my start, say right now I'm doing my wake up times at 4 a.m. and I'm part of the 0500 gang. I'm the only
Man.
gang member here with in the O5. I'm the only one who uses that hashtag.
Right, right, right.
Rico doesn't apply to me, but
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying. But
Yeah.
I realized like that, like I get up, I do my journaling, I get to the gym, and I do the podcast on the hamster wheel.
Oh,
I
okay.
call the treadmill a hamster
Yeah,
wheel.
yeah,
So
yeah.
Tuesday mornings when I'm posting and stuff, I have
Dude.
scheduled stuff, but that's when I'm doing my stories. I'm incline is 25%, and I'm doing it. And I thought about this. You might have even said this too about on to bring about, but you talk about audiobooks. You liked
Yeah.
listening because you can do other things as well.
Right, right.
Finding spaces to kind of co-locate tasks,
Yeah.
right? And I thought,
Yeah.
hey, I'm able to do a book here. A lot of my buddies bring a book on treadmill, but like being early in the morning, man, yeah,
Right.
there's nothing like it. So
Wait, wait. So you're editing while you're walking, jogging? What's going on?
I'm posting sometimes. Well, so here on Tuesday mornings, right? I have it scheduled. So like Spotify, YouTube,
Yeah.
and Apple, RSS feed to Spotify and
Okay. Yeah.
Apple, and then YouTube I have to schedule because I
Right,
gotta get the
right.
tags right and all that stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
And then on Tuesday mornings when the episode launches, I manually post to the stories. I make sure I comment back. People liking and commenting and things like I make sure I know you guys are very intentional
Yeah.
about that too. You acknowledge your followers.
Right, right.
I'm doing a lot of that stuff. I'm replying to messages.
Nice. Okay.
I just but that's like my time. My
Still,
wife
I
go
was gonna say, what a badass editing while you're on the treadmill.
hey
That's crazy.
hey next
No,
time
that's crazy.
Next time I walk in with a laptop to Beastified, they're gonna know exactly what I'm doing. Hey
Right,
guys, the
right, right.
Wi-Fi's down here, but and shoot, it's not easy to edit while you're doing that stuff. But
Yeah, yeah.
at the same time, man, we have to find spots in our life, in our day to day, to do these things simultaneously. And
That's
so
because there's not enough time in the day.
there isn't,
Nope.
when we're talking about fatherhood, what has been uh it's weird. Forgive me, I'm just pulling this out of thin air,
No, you're
but
good. You're good.
I feel like there's so many different ways to also include our family in
Hmm.
what we're doing.
Right.
Um, you talked about you and Trinity, you're getting this thing going.
Yeah.
I'm assuming Trinity probably manages some of the other things that you're not I mean, is she involved in the editing?
So she's actually not involved in the business at all. What I was referring to is like, since I'm doing this stuff for free, and luckily we're getting
Oh,
money to
right,
start
right.
coming in,
Yep.
she's the backbone of my family.
Oh,
So
got it, right.
so like she's taking care of the finances right now. And I still have some money coming in through like I do graphic design stuff. I do content for Mike here, and he pays me good for that. So
Got it.
it's my pride isn't all the way shot, as a man, but I
Absolutely.
I'm still like I made a deal with her where this year is her last year working ever, So I'm gonna hold up my end of the bargain on that, and I'll be able to feel better about everything she's done and everything that I've done, because I don't want this all to be for nothing in the end. And luckily, I'm very, very, very aware that everything that we do is making impacts, whether little, whether big, like it's a I understand that it's amazing what we're doing here at NSPN.
Absolutely, man.
Yeah.
So recalibrating my question, right?
Right.
You know, um, when you're doing your work, has
Mhm.
your daughter shown interest, for example, in what you do? Like
Dude.
how yeah, let's talk about that, bro.
Oh
Cause
my
because
gosh.
we
Yeah.
know the kids, they're not taught this in school, whether they go to private school or public school,
Yeah.
they're not taught how to do this. What you're
Right.
doing, that looks like that got you really excited, bro. Go.
Super excited. No, no. So like one thing about me is I understand how crap school systems are. Hey, respect to the teachers, but the school systems themselves, the way they're set up, the way the kids are there influencing each other, I don't think it's a good environment for kids. Not my opinion. So I'm homeschooling her. But
Nice.
like I'll be editing and she'll come sit on my lap and look at the podcast, and she's literally said at 4 years old, dude, she's so like ahead of her time thinking wise, and she says, "Daddy, when I'm older, I'm gonna help you with this." Like she sees me stressing out over it sometimes, man, and that is the best. And there's even times where like we're going to bed and she's just talking to herself, and she's like, "Make sure you like, share, and subscribe." And I'm like, "What the fuck?" You know, like I'm like, "Oh my god!" Like she's already on top of it, man, and it's scary a little bit because I'm like, "You're 4 years old. Don't say that." Like, but it's very interesting, man. I can't wait to see, in this near future, may it at 8 o'clock, if she could get a grasp on, not 8 o'clock, 8 years old, if she could get a grasp on everything, child labor laws, I don't care about. She's my kid, I'll
It's
put her
an
to work.
internship, baby.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yep.
Dude, I'm gonna send you a couple things after this episode too. My kids are starting to do the same thing, bro.
Awesome, man.
And I've told people that too, in
Yeah,
my semi-aggressive answer to where do you find the time. There's so many times where I've got
yeah.
my littles on my lap or whatever, and they're
Mhm.
asking about it, and
Nope.
that this is literally how they are learning what a computer is. This
Yeah.
is literally they asked me one time, "What's a program?" And I said, "Oh man," and I got to explain it to a 5-year-old. I'm gonna
Right.
plug it in at Chat GPT. Help me explain software to a 5-year-old, and it'll do that
Yeah.
for you. But that like their understanding,
Mhm.
you know, mommy and daddy we're podcasters, and
Yeah.
we talk to people,
Right.
and we like doing it because it's not even about the podcast.
Not at
It's
all.
about connection,
Exactly.
and
Yep.
this is a way that we've gotten to meet people that we would have never met, like, say,
Mhm.
in church or at
Right.
work or at the gas station.
Mhm.
And there's an art to this. And I keep my I got a 7-year-old, she's fixing to be 8. I
Mhm.
told her, I said, I'm gonna figure out a way to give you a couple projects soon, because
Yeah.
she's doing her math on the computer and
Mhm.
stuff. And bro, it's a skill. Like this happens in musician families all the time too. Like,
Right.
there's generations of country music stars and artists that like they learn how to do this from daddy. And like
Yeah.
that's the other thing. That's the unseen, the work. Like they say, the best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago. The second
Right.
best time is to plant one today. And what you're doing for your daughter, uh, that's invaluable. Like
Yeah.
you can't put a price on that. And
Right.
the fact that one day, bro, like, and you know, these are the types of stuff that makes me want to well up with tears. But like, you know, you're gonna be at her wedding,
Mhm.
or you're gonna be
Man,
somewhere,
30 years from now, yeah.
and she's whatever she's doing. If she decides to, you know, be in, you know, uh, be in media, or you know, do whatever, be a
Yeah,
lawyer, be a doctor, or
man.
business owner, entrepreneur, whatever,
Right.
there's going to be a moment where like it comes back to, I remember daddy
Mhm.
and sitting on his lap editing for these shows, and
Yep.
you're making core memories.
Right.
And so often, bro, people separate what they do at work with their
Mhm.
family time.
Right.
And when you put it together and this is like the family business, the
Right.
power in that, bro, it's huge. And that's the other thing I would tell people. I'd implore people who are separating their dreams from what they do in their regular life. It's like, these are ways, what you're doing, what
Mhm.
Esau's doing, it these are ways to bring it all together. And it does not have to be the way that the traditional mindset has always said. We've got to
Yeah.
break this mold of separating dreams from work and execution. I
And like me and you and others like us are pretty lucky, well, like when we have kids, because like I don't know about you, but my kid, my nephew's never shown interest in anything else I've done outside of this.
really,
And like with this, they get to see the human side of people. You know, they get to see people conversing. And with the age that we live in, most kids are screwed when it comes to social stuff. You know what I mean?
yep,
So like this is actual human interactions, and most of the time it's genuine. Obviously there's some that are a little, played out for entertainment purposes, but most of the stuff that we're doing out here is genuine, and them getting to see the interaction, the conversation that lasts more than 10 minutes, like that's an awesome thing that we're able to provide to our kids, that if we wouldn't have done this otherwise, it would have just been they see their parents doing the regular old 9 to 5 like they've been doing, so we are kind of breaking that cycle, as you said.
absolutely, man. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's such a big deal, dude. Because I mean, Gabriel said this, and it was real worthy, and we got a lot of props on it. And I think people are still pumping this out. But he described this like a virtual campfire,
Yeah.
and you know, uh, I-70, it's a real campfire. You don't have,
Mhm.
you got smoke. It's coming from cigars
Right. Right.
because you can't light a fire in the middle of
Yeah.
business.
Yeah.
But what's going on there on those couches with
Hmm.
John and the guest? That is the way, literally back to the earliest point of human history. That is how knowledge, information, ideas, inspiration,
Yep.
all that stuff caught fire. That this
Hmm.
is literally how it's done. And if you look at probably most, if not all, the ills of society, they come from lack of connection, right?
Hmm.
And you know, that's why I another thing of why I love so much about what you do is like every podcast that you guys have on the network, everybody brings their own flavor to it. And
Hmm.
the thing that I get when I listen, or like when I watch like High Times with the Fam, I
Right.
think about it and I go, man, that's a group of people like I'd like to hang out with. Like
Yeah.
I I feel like I'm there
Yeah.
with these folks. And when you talk about genuine, it's like I can tell they are these people outside of this setting, you
I don't
know?
know. You might be able to say the same thing, but that's how I always felt about like Joe Rogan's podcast, or freaking this past weekend with Theo Vaughn. Like, dude,
Yes, dude.
I swear to God, like that's what attracted me to podcasting in the first place. Was it provides this medium that makes you feel like you know these people, and that is so hard to accomplish with media, like everything is so fake and saturated out there, that these podcasts provide that space where you can feel like you're actually getting to know these people, that are in front of the screen. So yeah, it's an
Absolutely.
amazing thing, man.
Yeah, I love that Theo Vaughn got into the podcast space, and I love how you'll see him, like, when he looks up at the ceiling,
Mhm.
he's about to start processing something out
Yep,
loud,
yep.
and that's just one of those things. It's really helped me as well in watching them do it. It's
Mhm.
also helped me get more confidence in the little ticks and things that I do,
Right,
and to
right.
get over my ums, my uhs, and my all my little idiosyncrasies, right?
Mhm.
And that's what part of this. It's just the great purifier, like
Yeah,
podcasting. Nothing will do it like podcasting will do it.
yeah.
Um, just kind of in the interest of time, I know you being a
No, yeah.
being a,
You're good.
a busy dude. Um, you know, what what would you say to your younger self, or Esau that was just starting this out? Like, what do you think is important for or is there anything that you wish you would have known when you got started?
Uh, yeah. I mean, so that's kind of a question that has a couple answers. I'm gonna give you two quick answers. First one is no. There, there's nothing that I would want to change because I truly believe that everything happens when it's supposed to happen for a reason. And so that's that answer. And then the second answer is yes. The
My man.
the no, the studio was, I found out, wasn't even necessary at all. So like I could have done this guerrilla marketing style, going business to business, being out in the freaking street if I had to. Like I could have started a network while doing that rather than wasting my time and money on the studio. And but like I said, it's kind of double edged because I met so many people through that. And here's one point to that I'm gonna make quick. Having a freaking brick and mortar made people respect our brand way more than when we were out of my basement. So I really believe, and that's why the aesthetic of NSPN is so like high. Like it's I hold it to high standards as Netflix, Hulu, all that, because without that, you're not able to attract people as well. Like people see you as something less than if you don't have that look. So the building kind of gave us a legitimacy that we didn't have before, you know? So that's where I'm teetering on the yes and no, like everything kind of
Absolutely.
worked itself out. So
Absolutely, man. Yeah, I am also a believer that, the podcast and the company is wherever you and your people are. At the
right.
same time, to have a home base, knowing, like, being in the
Yeah.
media space, bro, studios are expensive. They're expensive to run, operate, um, and with that, yes, having a spot, which I don't have personal experience with yet, just the benefit of learning from people who have, like yourself.
Yeah.
And I've got a friend who is trying to build or rebuild a studio environment right now. And I've heard about all the challenges with that,
Yeah.
especially starting out, man. You're trying to you want to get investors, you need some help, or you
Mhm.
want to get loans. And then it's like, how do I pay this stuff off? And so,
Yeah.
yeah, there is that legitimacy. And I'll tell you what, man, when I look at your content, and from what I've heard from, like, even forwarding my appearance on I-70 out to friends and family, everybody
Mhm.
complimented the quality and, like, where
Yeah.
is that place? And, like, just like, and it's so fun explaining that too. Like, hey,
Yeah.
it's a local business. Like, these cats are going in there, they're setting it all up. They do
Yeah.
they have quality control. That's another thing too. When you get to have that spot, that regular spot, you're in
Yeah.
control of all the quality, the lighting,
Right.
the cameras, the angles. And another thing too, I just got to say, like, because we haven't talked about it yet, but my experience, just to give you your flowers, man, when I walked into the shop on that Saturday, I was like, I mean, I knew it was going to be professional and all that, but I was just like, geez, I sat right down, got a
Mhm.
quick orientation, and then we were going. And you were walking
Yep.
around with the camera, getting all the shots. I mean, absolute professionals in every sense of the word,
I
right?
appreciate that. Yeah.
I mean, dude, and that's the thing. Like, there's a saying like how you do one thing is how you do everything. And there's certain contexts where I don't think that applies, but for the most part,
Yeah.
it's like you've demonstrated you can be consistent, you can have discipline, you can do things the same every time, it's repeatable, right?
Right.
That's what's going to build the foundation. What you have the foundation right now to then build
Yeah.
upon that, right?
Right. Right.
And so, man,
Man, and no, and like I appreciate the compliments and high praise, because I'm telling you, man, with us not having any money coming in, that's our payment. See, okay, so one thing that I talked about, like with my family after your show, was seeing the excitement on your face of being there, seeing how many compliments you were giving on the set, the energy, all of the above, right? That was like, that's the payback that I get for this hard work. You know what I mean?
yes, sir.
And obviously, money's way better. I'm sorry, Mike. No, no, no. But like, seriously, like that type of stuff is what we don't get to see in person to person often. Like
Absolutely.
everybody's stoked to be on the shows and to see the set, and like it's different when you see the genuine awe, I guess is the word to say.
That's exactly what I felt.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I felt. And I think originally too, like I didn't know what to expect, right? And the
Hmm.
fact that you guys got up, came to meet me at the
Right.
entrance, shook my hand, put
Yeah.
me at ease. It just again, man, part of my gift is words of affirmation and making
Hmm.
sure I tell everybody when I die, no one is gonna no one's gonna wonder how I felt about them, right? Like I'm gonna
Right.
leave it
Right.
all out on the table. And I I've I've been around awesome people, great people, and I know I mean I just know from what you're doing, bro.
Hmm.
Like we'll have you back on the show again,
For sure.
next year,
Yeah.
and we're going to be talking about different things. Like
Man.
there's going to be an expansion here. We're going to have you'll probably have like 8 more shows by that time.
Who knows?
You have a movie, bro? Can we get
KCBC might be with NSPN. Who knows?
Oh shit. Dude,
You never know.
and that's another fun thing too that's happening, and I
Hmm.
don't really talk about it too much on this show, but we are connecting and we are finding like-minded individuals
Yeah.
because everyone knows this shit is lonely. This is
Very,
this is
man.
the like I think about that
Yeah.
Tech Nine song, "So Lonely." It's
Yeah.
so lonely. I was never a singer. I was a guitarist, but um
Yeah.
it's so lonely, man. And so when you find the real ones, you got to, and we have found a real good group of people, man. We're all
Yeah.
collaborating, we're figuring stuff out,
Right.
we're sharing ideas, we're learning from one another. We got a few
Hmm.
business owners in our squad, people who
Yeah.
like Tyler with his local screen printing. I never
Right.
want to use Sticker Mule ever again, right?
Yeah.
Like
Right.
I'll
Right.
probably omit their name. That's the only thing I'm going to
Right.
bleep in this episode. But I talked to him and I was like,
Yeah.
I want to go tour your facility. I want to try and
Right.
get some local merch made and
Yeah. Yeah.
all that. And dude, it's a big deal, man. Esau, it has been so good having you on this show,
Man.
man. We're
This
gonna
was
have to
this
do it
was a great
again.
time too. I really enjoyed this. Yeah.
Brother, it's an honor, man. Any final words you want to give to our listeners or anybody out there?
Uh, no, just support our shows, share them with friends. All of them are acquired tastes. They're not meant for everybody. So find your niche, find the show that you like the best, and give us feedback. Yeah.
Absolutely. All right. Well, y'all heard it from the Podfather himself.
Do I get that name? Is it coined now?
I was going to ask you, has anybody ever told you that?
No, no, no. I've definitely been called the best producer in Kansas City, which I will gratefully accept because, like I said, hey, I I think the most highly of myself more than anybody else, you know? And so like I put in the work to deserve that title, so I'm gonna fucking accept that title.
Hey,
But
you
the
know what?
Podfather is a different thing. That's pretty awesome. I'll take that too.
That's the title of this episode.
Man,
The
that's awesome.
Podfather of Kansas City. And I thought
Heck
about
yeah.
it yesterday morning and I was like, I was looking at you and I were texting, talking
Mhm.
about your headshot. And for your artwork, you got the one with the cigar and then
Yeah.
the pimpin' sunglasses. I'm just
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
and I was just like, he looks like Scarface or like,
Yeah, yeah.
a mob boss or something. And then
Yep.
I was like,
Yeah.
you've probably seen it like with
Right.
Gabriel's thumbnail, freedom of reach, right? Like
Yeah.
I like to spin off, and I was thinking, pod, he's the pot. He's like the Podfather. He's like the Godfather. No,
That's
he's the
hilarious.
Podfather. And then I thought about it, I was like,
Yeah.
he is the Podfather.
That's crazy, huh?
So definitely the Podfather of
Yeah.
Kansas City. Hey, that's the
Yeah.
title, the Podfather of Kansas City. So yeah, bro, that's the title.
Awesome. Perfect.
And that's
And
who you are, bro. I'm gonna start calling you that
quick
shit.
preface to that photo. I'm behind the cameras, man. That photo I sent you was one time that I got to do an ad for the glasses that I was wearing.
Oh,
S-
seriously?
Yeah, yeah. So like it looks so corny. Like not corny, but like
Dude,
it looks staged, and it's because it was, because it was for an ad. Yeah, but I love that picture just because like it kind of it to me it that picture is embracing the person I'm wanting to be,
mm,
because I really am striving to be like that guy in Kansas City. Like I want everybody to come through NSPN for all media needs in the future, including these big giant Hollywood Goliaths. Like I want them to have to pass through NSPN if they're doing any work in Kansas City. So
absolutely.
yeah, I'm trying to get there, but we'll get there.
And that's one of the things, like I respect that, and something we didn't get to talk about, we'll cover next time. But you had said, think about ways you can help other people before you can get help. And I truly believe we can trust the people that will do it for free.
Exactly. Yeah.
And when you do something for free, and again, going back to this being lonely, we look at the views to like ratio.
Right.
I talked about this with John. The fact that I think a lot of people they don't think to do it, but
Mhm.
somehow cannot get the thumb to move 2 inches.
Man.
To, it's literally the lightest tap in the
Yep.
world to acknowledge. We know the ratio, right?
Yep.
You're doing that. You're not doing it for the likes. You're not doing it for the subscriptions.
Right.
You're doing it because you're building something good, and
Mhm.
you are inviting other people. The people that you're inviting, they're being called up to a new level of greatness, right? It's like, hey,
Right.
when you talk about how you and John first met, and how you said, hey, you should have your own show. And it was
Right.
because he was a guest on one of your earlier podcasts.
Yeah, yeah, and his charisma just overshadowed the host that I had. You know what I mean? And
Right.
I was like, this guy needs a show.
Hey,
Like, yeah,
he's like a walking star, like planet.
no, he
So
really is for sure.
he's an absolute force of nature. But to
Can
go,
I leave the audience with one last thing?
yeah,
Sorry.
go for it.
So to what you said about like us just getting that content out, going through podcasting from the beginning to say episode 100. There is going to be evolution in the progression of the look and feel in the context of the show. So when you're not getting the response that you want, you have to adjust. And by the time you get to episode 100, guess what? Even if you still have 200 subscribers, you have a catalog of 100 episodes of a show. And not many people could say that. Freaking there's shows that are the most popular only went for 60 seasons or 60 episodes, so like don't think that all that work and progression was for nothing, because at least at the end of the day you still have a catalog to work with. So yeah, don't get discouraged, guys.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I'd drop the mic. I'm sure you would if it wasn't mounted.
Yeah,
Esai
right.
Moreno, it has been so good having you on the show, brother. Everybody
Man.
tap in with all the shows. Check them out. Definitely give my boy here a follow on Instagram, is where you're most active,
Yeah,
correct?
yeah, for
And
sure.
then all of the shows are only on YouTube, okay? So no one has an excuse to not check it out.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, everybody. Really appreciate it. This is already going to be an amazing season, I can tell. Remember to subscribe, like, share, go follow our guests. That's why we do this. We're shining a light on local heroes here in Kansas City. Thank you very much.